Buenos días, damas y caballeros. Normally, when I get a little bit nervous in front of a group, I start speaking in Spanish, but that's not going to work in this group. So you all can understand what I'm saying. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our esteemed campus president, Dr. Larissa Bahia, and the entire university community, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our campus as we come together to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. I am honored to stand before you today as the academic dean for Associate of Science and Workforce Programs at the university campus. This month, we gather not only to honor vibrant and diverse cultures that make up the Hispanic community, but also to acknowledge and celebrate the profound impact that the Hispanic heritage has had on our professional and personal lives. Hispanic heritage is a rich tapestry of traditions, history, and achievements that have left an unforgettable mark in our society. From the arts to the sciences, from entrepreneurship to education, Hispanic individuals have played a pivotal role in shaping the world we live in today. In the realm of academia and workforce development, we are particularly aware of the invaluable contributions made by individuals in the Hispanic community. Their determination, resilience, and commitment to excellence has paved the way for countless students and professionals alike. Many have risen to become leaders in their respective fields, as we will hear from our distinguished panelists today, inspiring others to pursue their dreams and aspirations. Today, we have the privilege of hearing stories from our own community members who will share their experiences of how their Hispanic heritage have influenced both their professional and personal lives. These stories serve as a testament to the power of culture, diversity, inclusivity, and driving innovation and success. As we embark on this month of celebration, let us take a moment to reflect on the strength that lies in our differences and the beauty that arises from our shared experiences. Together, we can foster a community that thrives on cultural richness and mutual respect. I encourage each one of you to engage in the events and discussions planned for Hispanic Heritage Month, to learn from one another, and to celebrate the accomplishments and contributions of our Hispanic colleagues and friends. Una vez más, bienvenidos a nuestro campus y abracemos el espíritu del mes, la herencia hispana, mientras aprendemos, compartimos y crecemos juntos. Bienvenidos y muchas gracias. I will introduce and share the microphone with Kimberly Jackson, who is the Executive Vice President, or the Executive Director, sorry. I already upgraded your title. And she will be speaking up next and introducing the panelists. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Kimberly Jackson, and I'm the Executive Director for the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. And the Institute was the brainchild of the late Congressman Bill Young. He wanted to have a space for social, political, and economic nonpartisan discourse and to have programs to educate, enhance, and engage the community. And we honor and are grateful to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. And we have been planning this for quite some time at our college. On behalf of St. Petersburg College and the Institute, thank you and welcome. I'd also like to say I'm honored to be with my team that's here today. I have a young and strong team, and they've worked diligently to create not only this program, but other programs we'll talk about before we close and promote. And finally, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel. Many of you all may know these people respectively in the community because they give to the community. But what we want to have is different perspectives on the Hispanic population and how they come together in our community, particularly at a time when we have challenging conversations. So with that, I'd like to first introduce Lisset, Hanewicz, who is the first Hispanic St. Petersburg City Council member of the panel. And I want to make sure, do I need to change the panel? Thank you. Let me make sure I'm just doing this right. I also invite you all to always look everyone up. It's important that we engage in a positive space with our leaders in the community. Next, we have Diane Cortes, who's the president of Acumen Strategist, and she's on our panel as well. And finally, next to her, we have Laurimar Paniagua, who's the chair of Somos ACC. And we have two other panelists, Maria Bermudez-Torres, the president of the Tampa Hispanic Heritage. And then finally, Mercedes Young, the president of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Tampa Bay. Who we don't have up here is the amazing Josh Rojas, who was gracious enough to give up his time. Of course, he is a lead, a speaker, moderator, anchor for Bay News 9. Was gracious enough to get his ear at another event we had about a year ago, I believe, where he agreed to co-host any event that we had for the Spanish community. So I want to publicly say thank you for doing that and for keeping your word. And before I step aside, we have one of our board members here, and she is a new board member. I want to thank her for her time. Valerie Loudon is new to the board of the Institute, and thank you so much for coming and supporting our program. And with that, Josh, I think it's time for you to come and take over the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Bienvenidos. During this month and throughout the year, we must recognize the history and contributions of our Hispanic community. Now, the theme for this year is Latinos driving prosperity, power, and progress in America. According to the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Hispanic-owned business alone contribute $800 billion to the American economy annually. Now that's progress. On a personal note, I'm very proud of my Hispanic heritage. My mom was born in Peru and immigrated to the United States as a child. She met my dad, who's of Dutch origin, while in college in Colorado. I'll always treasure growing up with the traditions and culture of the Peruvian culture. I even started using my mom's maiden name on the air a few years into my journalism career. I've always appreciated the fact that journalism organizations embrace diversity and inclusion. I'm proud to represent the Hispanic culture in media. All right, enough about me. Now let's get to our panel. And let's start with the first question. It's going to be the easiest one. Let's just talk about how your Hispanic tradition and culture has played a role in your personal and professional lives here. And let's just start with Lisset and go down the line.
Well, hi everyone. What's up? Good afternoon, and thank you for having us here today. I'm very excited to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with you and share a little bit of our stories. My culture means everything to me. My parents came from Cuba back in the 60s in the freedom fights, and I was actually born in Tampa, Florida. I was born in Tampa General Hospital, believe it or not. And my mom and my dad got divorced. I was 2 years old, and she ended up in Miami, and I was raised by my abuela and my mom. One of the things I remember as a child is how important education was to our family, because they lost everything from what happened in Cuba. And we didn't have much. They came with the shirts on their back, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture. And my mom wanted to make sure that I had every opportunity in this country. And with that, it had to do with education. And education was the pathway for me. We were poor, and I had to drop out of school at the age of 16 to work full-time to help my mom pay. I paid half the rent, half utilities, half the food bills. At the age of 16, I worked full-time. I went to school at night. I got my high school diploma. Not my GED, my high school diploma at night. I finished my bachelor's at night. My MBA in night school, I went to law school at the age of 30. And that was all done because of my family, because of the values that were instilled in me, and making sure that I continued on and respected what they had to go through to gain freedom in our country. And the proudest moment I ever had was when I was elected a city council member, knowing that my family left a place that didn't have freedom, and here I was being an elected representative for the citizens of St. Petersburg, the first Hispanic city council member ever in the city of St. Pete. And that's shocking for people in Tampa to understand, because we're just across the bay. But it just happened. last year. I got elected 2021, and 2022 was my first year. So I'm very proud to represent the Hispanic community in our city. So for me, my Hispanic heritage is everything, and I do everything to honor my mother. Thank you.
Beautiful.
All right, Diane.
So definitely Hispanic for me, it's who I am, it's how I was raised. I was born in New York, but I was raised in Puerto Rico. And I came to live here to Tampa just in 2015. So I came because of an opportunity with the job that I had back then. And from there, I fell in love with Tampa. I love the heritage about Hispanic culture here within Tampa, but I didn't know nobody. So I started from scratch, putting, of course, my skills as a leader in the community. I did as well here. So shortly after, I became the president of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Tampa Bay for a 4-year term. I started my own business. Acumen Strategist is a human resources and digital marketing firm. So as a Hispanic, for me, it was amazing getting the support in this beautiful county and this beautiful city of Tampa Bay. Of course, I had challenges. I have challenges because being raised in Puerto Rico, I have definitely a very strong culture. The way I express myself, the way I intend to do things were completely different. And shocking experience realizing that coming to Tampa or any part in the United States, of course, you are a minority. So I was living my entire life in Puerto Rico, so why am I a minority? Why am I being called that? So that was, yes, a cultural shock on understanding how Hispanic are being valued here in not only Florida, but overall. I'm a community leader as well with the Minority Enterprise Development Corporation, part of their board of director. I'm proud to say that I'm also part of the advisory board for the Women Business Center here in the Tampa Bay. I'm part of the board and advisory board for GTE Financial Hispanic. So that means a lot when it comes to promoting services to Hispanics with such an amazing bank like a credit union, I should say, as credit union. So for me, learning here what really was being Hispanic, I thought I was Hispanic just because I was Puerto Rican. But now when I came here, I became much more. I'm Hispanic, I'm Panameña, I'm Dominican, I'm Colombia. You don't see that when you're raised in your own location in Puerto Rico because everybody's Puerto Rican, everybody speaks the same slang. But I had to learn that here. It's beautiful, the diversity, and definitely appreciate it very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laurimar. Hispanic heritage for me, I would say with values, everything was family and community. Family and community. You don't do anything for yourself. You're part of something bigger. And so in all of the jobs that I've had the pleasure to be a part of, I've been able to bring that in. It's not just about getting ahead, it's who can I grab and bring with me? Who can I give information to bring with us? So part of the Hispanic heritage that I bring from my family, I was born in Puerto Rico, so it was learning the language here as a young person, and watching my parents learn the language. And so it gives you a huge appreciation when you see people struggling to speak the language. When they don't appear to be as smart as they are because, excuse me, just they can't express what they can't, in English, what they might be able to express in their own language. And so being able to reach out to people to say, how can I help you? You're at a line and you see someone's like, oh, I'm trying to communicate with someone. It's none of your business, but you go over there because that's part of your Hispanic heritage. Le puedo ayudar? Can I help you with something? And so just community and family are the biggest things that I feel my Hispanic heritage has really plugged in to everything I do, anything that I can be a part of.
Hola, ¿cómo están? I am Maria Torres, well, Bermudez-Torres. I'm piggybacking on a little bit of all the panelists that have spoken previously. It's kind of interesting because I could relate to the fact of coming to this country, but in reverse. I was born in New Bedford, Massachusetts, believe it or not, and my mother moved back to Puerto Rico. So talk about learning your tradition for the first time when you've learned what it is to be someone living here on the so-called mainland. With that said, it was very an experience in itself to learn how to appreciate even more so those traditions that my mom would bring. Laudia and I were talking earlier, you know, you have Nochebuena. And what is Nochebuena? Oh, okay, you know, that's just Nochebuena. You tend to, the older you get, the more you appreciate those traditions. From there, when I moved back to Puerto Rico, learned Noche de Reyes. You know, okay, you gotta go pick up grass. And why am I picking grass in a shoebox, you know? But the gift was, you know, you're gonna get some toys or whatever. So, you know, just remembering where we come from, obviously it'll show us where we're going. To be able to share that, we have one of our colleagues that he's always asking questions. And it's so nice to share and to see that someone's so inquisitive of trying to figure out what we are about. I had an instructor from University of Arizona that once told me, he goes, you know, we have the tendency, or people have the tendency, to think of us Hispanos as a wrap. They don't call it a tortilla, they just call it a wrap. They wrap us all together. The beauty of us Hispanos is that each one of us have our own traditions in our own little way, our own food. We don't call it frijoles some places, we call them habichuelas, arroz, or elote, or corn. So it's the beauty of what Latinos are, Hispanics are. It is just more than who we are. The sharing of it and bringing those and embracing those who want to learn.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting the community, my passion. My name is Mercedes Young, and as I'm listening to all of you guys, you know, just hearing the experiences, and it's interesting because when I told my grandmother that I was moving to the United States, she said, well, I cannot pay for college, but you need to learn English. If you learn English, you can go to the moon. Okay, so we went to the YMCA and learned English. But I didn't have nobody to speak it with. So I moved to the United States, and I said to her, the United States is full of immigrants. How bad can it be? And then I moved to Kentucky and found out that I was black. I didn't know I was black. I thought I was just Latina. So I was another level of deep down the minority. And then when people call me minority, that you'll see that I write in my book, they'll call me minority. I'm minor to nothing. So it was just levels and levels of cultural differences that I really came with a mindset like, you know, they got millions of them. One more won't make a difference. And then I show up with my curly hair and with my dark skin. And I was just talking with the guy here, like, I get the zoo. Have anybody been at the zoos in Washington, D.C.? They make it like an environment. It's different than most zoos. So if you got the pandas, the zoos over there, they build a hole on the ground and they make it cold and the pandas live there and they eat bamboo. So people go and they turn their heads. So when people see me coming, oh, there comes a woman and there comes a black American woman. And when I open my mouth, I get the zoo look. People tilt their head. Where are you from again? You ain't from around here? Imagine me living in certain counties. And so I went back to school and took English as a second language. And here I am. And then to get deeper, like if I really had not got told about myself, go into the world of constructions. So I was told by people that I gave them checks. You need to be selling lipsticks. So I said, did you pick up a check? Tell me whose signature was in the front. Oh, I don't know, Mercedes Young. Who's that? I said, it was my check. You go sell lipstick. You need to find your new job. So my point is that you're dealing with the differences. But one of the things that I would always say and celebrate about Hispanics and about the brown community, we are progressive. That's just that. Regardless of what we go through, our story is always on the other side. Oh, we can do it. My English may not be good looking, but by the end of the day, you know what I try to say, right?
Over the years in Tampa Bay? Let's mix it up and start with Maria this time.
Can you hear me? Okay. So it's kind of interesting that you asked that question to me, first of all. Recently, I was approached about responding to an article that was going to be put in the newspaper about Tampa Hispanic Heritage. And, you know, looking through our archives, there really wasn't nothing tangible to share with this reporter. So a friend of mine mentioned to me, why don't you reach out to, and many of you might know her, Margarita Gonzalez. And so I reached out to Margarita Gonzalez, and she had a very interesting reason why the organization itself. So it might kind of answer your question as far as how has it changed. The purpose that while she partially started all this organization was because Tampa in itself, Latinos were growing so much. Hispanics, the Hispanic population was growing just tremendously. And she did not want to miss out that we did not appreciate each other, to promote each other. So I think we have grown so much that it's the beauty of it. I think we're trending to, Tampa many years ago, you would think it's Italian and just Cubano. Now, guess what? We have people from Panama, we have people from Santo Domingo, we have people from Puerto Rico. We are growing, we're learning to embrace and learn from each other. And I think we have a common ground to push and promote each other as one. I think that is something, and I feel that is something that is a good thing, that we gather to each other, we help and rise each other to the task, and to leave a legacy more than anything, to leave a legacy that shows that we were and we have our stamp in the city of Tampa.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Laurimar next.
How has it changed? I came here to the Tampa Bay area in 1985, and there was one store, to give you an example, one store where we could buy adobo in the Brandon area. And so towards Tampa, there was more of that, but one that we could go to, and if the adobo was out, that's it. You have to wait for the next shipment. And so things like that affected even how you could cook at home, how you could cook your Latin meals. What you were used to, you'd have to use something else that wasn't part of your culture that you didn't normally use. And so slowly starting to see, so I could say I started here at HCC in 2012, and I think at that time we had only one of our campuses which qualified for Hispanic Serving Institution, which was Dale Mabry, and I think we were at about 28% Hispanic students at that time. That same campus right now is 40% Hispanic students. And so it has changed incredibly, and we see that here in education, but we see it even when you go down the street and there's like 3, 4, 5, 6 colmaditos, small businesses where you're just like, okay, they're here, we're here. There's places where I can reach out to get things that I resonate with, my family can connect to. And so you feel we are more connected now. There definitely a lot more, and so more opportunities as well.
Thank you for that. Let's go to Mercedes Young.
In my humble opinion, coming from the business side, I will say that we are more assertive. When you can find tostones at 2 o'clock in the morning in Brandon, you know we are assertive. We are very assertive. There isn't a single construction project in the state of Florida that doesn't have the hand of a Latino. There isn't a single tourism, food, service that doesn't have the hand of a Latino. So I think, in my opinion, will be that we have become more assertive. Even if we don't speak the language, we can really make that better than anybody else at hotels. So I will just say that will be that we are so progressive in the being more assertive. It makes us more efficient, and then we multiply it on top of that.
Thank you. Let's go to Diane.
So, I came here in 2015, and I mentioned that. I came here in 2015, and I mentioned that immediately when I presented. So, from then to now, yes, there's been plenty of changes within the Hispanic community. One of them starting in 2017, the immigration of more Hispanic, Puerto Ricans, and Venezolanos. When back before 2015, it was more about Cubans, followed by Colombians, and we can speak other Hispanics. But that also brought in opportunities, because a lot of the Puerto Ricans that were coming here, more than 1 million, by the way, bring businesses, food, bakeries, construction companies, attorneys being licensed here, doctors moving here, among Venezuelans that are really educated professional people, and brought in also manufacturer and many other aspects. So yes, I've seen an amazing change on how we did business with 2015. Of course, I think you've seen more. But also, I wanted to mention that, being that said, programs were created more aggressive towards promoting the creation of new business within the minority, including Hispanic. I know back then it was HBIF, and then was created, changed by Prospera, and they got bigger funding in order to meet the demands that the local market needed. And of course, across Florida. And it became so powerful that they even extended to Georgia, because this was a trial on market. So being that said, more grants, more federal fundings allocation came in, and of course, more expansion, more home construction. A lot of companies that were Hispanic in construction came in, which is great, and it shows that the Hispanic community, number one, is prepared, number two, is really well educated, and number three, we can do as much as everybody else. We're equal.
Thank you. All right, Lisette.
Well, I agree with everyone here. I'm going to take the perspective a little bit broader than Tampa Bay. Look at Florida. I said I was born in Tampa when my parents first got here. They lived in Robles Park. And they ended up in Miami. And when they were in Miami, it wasn't a majority minority city. It's a majority minority city now, the minority being Hispanics. And every country is represented, every. And what happens in South America and in Central America happens in Florida and in the Caribbean. And you see it in the waves that come and people that come. And whether it was the Cubans or the Nicaraguans, or Hondureños, or Venezolanos, everything that happens comes over here. And you're seeing that change now happening here in terms of the diversity of Hispanics that we're seeing in our region, including St. Petersburg. I see so many more Venezolanos everywhere, and I love it because I can eat some good Venezuelan food, not far from our office. And you see it in the diversity of people that are coming into the region, and it's not stopping. It really is not. The population in St. Petersburg of Hispanics is about 8%. I think in my district, when I first started, it was about 5 or 6%. And it's growing at a quick clip. And I think it's going to continue happening in the region because of just where we're located, frankly, in Florida. And the growth in South Florida, you can't contain it. It's just going to continue coming up. So I think there's going to be a continuum, not just of outside, but also internally in Florida. You're going to consider seeing that growth and that diversity of cultures. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got a big election coming up next year. What lessons can be learned from approaching the Hispanic population from the 2016 and the 2020 elections? We might as well go to I know you just talked, Lisette, but you're our politician. You want to take a stab at that first?
Well, I think I'm just going to regurgitate what some people said. We're not homogeneous. Go figure. Hispanics aren't just one group of people with the same ideas. We're not all brown. We're not all the same, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever. We are everything. There are whole countries of Hispanic people. I try to explain to people in the U.S. that try to put Hispanics in a little box. And I say, do you realize that Hispanics are just like the United States, except they just speak a different language? We have Asians, blacks, whites, everything you can imagine. And we just have a shared culture and shared languages. And I think if our country, if people would take the time to understand those differences and what makes us all unique, they would be able to do a better outreach with Hispanics. I think there's a lot of assumptions made about Hispanics and what they believe in because of whatever the public narrative is. And I think they miss the boat a lot because they don't take the time to look at all, you see this panel here? Look at these diverse experiences. And we're all Hispanic, but there is a lot of cultural differences just at this table right here, and I think they need to take a little bit better time to understand those differences.
Thank you. Let's just go ahead and continue down the row there. Diane.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. Yes, yeah, it's the only term that it's being placed from the Hispanic perspective is that we're only in one culture, one mindset, and one language. Actually, when it comes to politics, be very careful how you handle your campaigns, because the way I speak a couple of words not necessarily are the same as Mexican, as Dominican, as Colombian. There is an issue about communications, trying to understand that because we're Hispanic, that's all we are. We're more than that. We each of us, depending where you come from, and if you're from Mexico, you will come from different regions where they're, including inside their own different states, they speak different languages as well, and dialects. Being that said, we have plenty of that here in Florida, let's say Florida, absolutely, where you need to impact the culture to whom you're addressing your campaign. That's number one. And number two, please keep in mind, and I take this and I cherish it very much, the Hispanic is the decision vote. So we work hard, we are humble, we are well educated, and we are here in the United States to do more, be more, and we're planning to stay here. We're not going anywhere.
My favorite topic, politics. My colleagues laughing at me. So what can I say? From all the things that we have seen, one of the things that we hear, and especially here being amongst students, there's so many topics, so many conversations that go on at every race. And we could look at it as a political group, like you were saying, like one person, but different things do impact different communities within our Hispanic culture. And so how do we reach out to people to talk to them about what fears they might be having? Are we addressing those things? Are we seeing that maybe this is something that impacts this particular Hispanic culture, but maybe not that one as much? So if we have a privilege to not be impacted by something, are we turning away, even Hispanic to Hispanic, to not worry about things that are affecting other Hispanics, or are we dialing in on those? And I'll tell you, it has been from conversations that I've had with other people. Some of them are difficult conversations, right? When you're talking about politics, we don't all agree, we don't all see eye to eye, but are we willing to listen to different things? And are we willing to give people credit to say, you know, regardless of our differences, can we still have a conversation? That's something that we do here in college, right? Which is to try to help people say, you can have a conversation about this. This is how you develop a conversation. We had a panel here last week, and part of what they were talking about was how to develop critical thinking. Well, if we're not talking about these things, then we're not thinking about them critically, and we can just go with wherever the wind is going. And so it's really important with politics and things that are happening to educate our community, to bring information about everything that maybe one particular topic is bringing out, all the ways that it can affect, and all the ways that we can help each other to understand how to respond to that as a community.
In addition to being, president of Tampa Hispanic Heritage, I do work at Hillsborough Community College. And one of the things, because Laurie and I and one of our other colleagues always talk about the obvious conversation of how political or how politics play in accessibility for Latinos or Hispanics. Through conversation with students, we see a lot of those, and it brings to the forefront how different we are. So I'll give you an example very quickly. We have a lot of Cuban students, and we had at one point a lot of Venezolanos. And a lot of the students that come from Cuba don't come or have the accessibility the same as someone that comes from Venezuela. And I refer to that as far as how they'll be able to make it through college. Those who come from Venezuela, normally, the majority of times, they come here on asylum. So you have to look at it differently. Their experiences are differently. Their plight is different. Cubanos, they have a huge support system here within not only Tampa, but within the state of Florida. And their accessibility is a little bit different than it is of those who come from Colombia and those who come from Mexico or those who come from Venezuela. So I think politically, we need to dig in a little bit more in the arroz en habichuelas and the arroz con pollo, and we need to dig into what it really truly means to be part of what we would call this community, whether it be Hispano, whether it's America. So I could go on a tangent on that, and I will not do so, but I just want you to understand that I think we need to truly look at each one, not necessarily individually, but each group as such. Their needs and their struggles are different. So I think we need to keep that in the back of our mind, that not all of us look the same, kind of referencing to what you were saying. Not all of us are coming from the same background. And I'll give you just one little bit. We had a student, and I think you remember this, we had a student one time come from one of the other countries, meaning, I think it was called Cuba. This gentleman was a doctor and came to this country and had to have evaluation. Think about the cost. Not everybody socioeconomically are there. This gentleman had to come to this country, being a doctor, and find himself being a CNA. His language was the barrier for him. So we need to think about those things. What can we provide? What can we promote? How can we make it easier? Because guess what? He could have been the greatest doctor. He could have saved one of your lives and not realize that, you know, we don't consider him as someone as with that profession. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, thank you. I really think when it comes to politics, you know, I can definitely agree 100% with these ladies, and to take into consideration the fact that if you are going to be in politics, we have got to be mindful of who we serve. Most of those positions are elected by the people that believe that you can guide us and that you can represent us. That's the most important part. So in order to represent something, we have to be mindful. We have to take time to get to know them, because we are, Latinos are a country. Really, we are. We just are. Yes, most of us got in common the language, but when we get happy, we turn the language into a lingo. And let's not exclude the Brazilians, because they also are Latinos and they speak Portuguese. But the point is that really, in order to be in politics, we have to be inclusive and we have to embrace the differences. Because the conversation that you will have with a 20-year-old today that migrated to the United States, it would not have been the same conversation when I was 20 years old. You know, when any of us were 20 years old, even though we're just 29 and a half. It wasn't long ago, but still different, right?
All right, thank you so much. Now we have about 10 minutes left to take some questions from the audience. Please raise your hand if you have a question for our panelists here, and Aaron Bryce will bring a microphone to you. All right, we've got one over here.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Hernandez, and I'm the president of the Dominican Association of Tampa. Listening to you all, it's kind of like it touched me, because being Dominican, a few years ago in 2019, when we were in the middle of elections, we were also in the middle of elections back in Dominican Republic. So I joined the Hispanic task force in Tampa that was advocating for the Latino community in the area to participate in the elections. And everybody was saying, you know, I'm Venezuelan, I want the TPS, or Colombian, so I was the only Dominican. And they were like, what are you advocating for? And I'm like, I just want to advocate for my people to know their rights, that they're here, they must learn how to vote for their local authorities, learn who they are, learn who they bring to the table. And one of the things that I found, it's like, personally, I couldn't find anyone in the politics locally that knew who I was from, where I was from. So what do you guys think? And my question, I think I want to ask for Ms. Cortes, because you are a very known member in the community. And I want to know, what's your idea of how to bring the diversity within the Hispanics to become more unit, like for everybody to understand the difference between our countries?
Well, first things first.
Your microphone, yeah.
Sorry. First things first. I mean, we need to agree and identify that we're no longer in Puerto Rico, in La República Dominicana. We're in the U.S. and we have to embrace one culture, and it's the sense of belonging and making things happen. Now, referring to that part is that us, Hispanic, we are the one who have created the divisions and the segregation. The Cubans are in this area of the Hillsborough, Columbus, and then the Puerto Ricans are in Orlando, and more Cubans in Miami, and then you see in Armenia more Colombians. We are the one who've become segregated, and we have done it on purpose. I'm just giving this as an example, but it happens everywhere. Now, the solution is there. Why are we doing that? Why, if we want to become one voice, why we keep on segregating? Of course, because we want to be part of something that resembles to our own culture. And when I go to Armenia and I'm Colombian, I feel like at home. And when I go to Columbus and Hillsborough Avenue and see Cuban, I feel at home. So the people that need to make the change are us. And having one voice, getting together, we are truly disorganized when it comes to giving a voice. There's a Dominican organization, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Tampa Bay, that embrace everyone, and that's what we want, creating organizations that embrace everyone so we can come in common grounds and make one voice, one decision. If we are able to do that, we can create more programs, more assistance, not only for us, because we need to respect everybody as one, but to understand that we as Hispanic bring education, bring great ideas to help our community to grow and develop. That's the way I see it.
Lisette, you want to?
I would like to add something to that. Well, first of all, Tanya, thank you so much for being engaged. I think it's difficult. I think it's hard when Hispanics come to this country. I think like any group of citizens that come to this country, you are going to be where people you know are. That's just a natural progression. I don't think people are like self-selecting immediately, like we don't want to be part of the group. I think it's just natural because your family member may be there. That's where the Hispanic store is. That, you know, you have all the things that you need to kind of flourish in a new community. And so I think it's just a natural thing. In Miami, I'll give you an example. You have Little Havana. Little Havana is not Little Havana anymore because there's not a lot of Cubans there. You have a lot of other countries that have come in after the Cubans, and now you have a completely mix of different people. And I think you see that throughout the U.S. in different places. I think what's important, though, and to your point about being engaged and having, I think more important than having a unified voice is just having a voice. Let's just start with having a voice and being engaged and being educated. And I think, they didn't ask me to do this, but things like what they're doing today, right? And educating the populace and letting them learn about policy and what's happening out there and who's out there and connecting people and having conversations in their community. I think that's how you have change. It doesn't happen overnight. It slowly happens. But you have to have a community that engages and understands the importance of engaging.
Thank you. Another question from a member of the audience. Okay, we've got one over here.
Valerie Lavin, as Kimberly mentioned, I'm a new member of the ISPS board, but I'm also a small business owner, and I have a nonprofit action zone. We help veterans and their families start their own businesses. Recently, I'm working with a veteran-owned business who I was shocked at what drove his business idea. So a lot of his members of the Hispanic community, Spanish-speaking Americans, don't file for taxes because they're afraid of the government. And you know, through his pitch presentation, I became so attached to this mission that it just blows my mind that we have Americans that are so afraid of the government that they're not filing for their taxes. So what can we do, the non-Spanish speaking community, help our Hispanic community feel more comfortable with filing their taxes and not be afraid of the government. I know you mentioned, educating about policies and stuff, but, from the regular American citizen, what can I do other than be on the board of advisors for this company?
In my opinion, believe it or not, I think collaboration. When you start collaborating with someone, so believe it or not, we collaborate a lot. And one of the things we were discussing, so I'll give you an example. At one of our campuses, we had a certain population where they were afraid of filling in documents for financial aid. So, you got to think outside the box. Okay, how do I do this? How do I take care of this? You hate for a student to miss out on the opportunity. So believe it or not, you have to be creative. So at this point, we always have orientation for our students. I came up with having orientation for the parents. So to educate them, to your point, to educate them and make them understand that it's okay to do so. A lot of it is misinformation from their peers, from their neighbors. A lot of it is just fear, plain and simple. But I think with collaboration, so if you and I got together and through your discussion, maybe some translations could go on and happen. We could just brainstorm of how to approach this. So we always have to think outside the box of how best to explain, how to make it work. For this particular population, I really did have to talk to the parents. And Laudy and I were talking today, and I said, I remember another thing that was that besides the taxes was the fact that they came to this country maybe with no education or maybe with a second grade education, and they didn't see the investment into an education. So that's a whole other discussion that I would have with the parents and itself. But again, I think collaboration, discussion, because during that time I had to talk to my president and say, look, we're missing out on this, we're having these challenges, and he was very receptive to it. So I was very fortunate, but again, collaboration, discussion should be one of it.
Have to be very careful as far as teaching people the value of their vote. I became a citizen to vote for president in 2016. And I have been in this country for about 15 years interpreting for immigration officers and had no interest because I had my Social Security card and permanent alien, for those back in those days. But one of the things that we need to be very mindful for people to understand the importance of their vote, the importance of their voice. Because if we don't participate, then it's almost like somebody is serving you any kind of food and you just got to eat it. And you go into survival mode and just really getting us to the point to understand. Because we need to have a voice to choose who's going to represent us. It has to be people that embrace us. And I'm speaking in the content of Hispanics. In the last year, we have seen the biggest migration of Hispanics in the state of Florida. We had a back-to-school backpack, and we happened to have the sheriff put in a truck in front of it just to bring the water. We saw people coming out of church and hiding because there was a sheriff truck in front of it. So we had to go to the schools and give the backpacks. So what does that tell you? That as a community, as agencies, and I'm speaking directly to the agencies that are supposed to make us feel safe, we need to do a better job. Because we make your job difficult. If I know that if I go out there to work because I don't qualify for support, but I do want to have a decent job and provide for my family, and that can cause me to be deported, that can cause me to be bullied in school, that can cost me my life, that can cost my safety. If my safety is in danger by the nature of a human being, I will reject it and I will stay away from it. So I really think to speaking with our officials and let them know for those that are upcoming, and those that register, we can find them on Google on our phone and say, hey, what is your stand for the community? Where do you stand with Hispanics? Because guess what? We're going nowhere. We are not going anywhere. It is what it is. So how are you going to embrace us and serve us?
Thank you so much to our distinguished panel. That 45 minutes really flew by. Great discussion. My time is up. It was my honor, truly, to moderate this discussion about Hispanic Heritage Month. And let me bring up Kimberly Jackson for some closing remarks.
Well, that's what I love about the Institute, because we start these conversations and they can literally go on and on and on, because they're important conversations, and we don't take the time often as a community to explore in-depth conversations and come up with solutions and really speak to each other instead of at each other. So thank you for just the most powerful conversation, specifically to all of you all who do so much in the community. As a person who values community voices and community work, I just want to thank you. So thank you to Lisset, Diane, Laurimar, Maria, Mercedes, and Josh for all that you do. And I hope that we've made our peers at SPC proud for exploring Hispanic Heritage Month. So before I go, I'd be remiss without saying that we have many other programs. If you want to learn more about the Institute, please go to our website, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, support. We're trying to make sure that we reach all communities, and we're open to your feedback. We have we call it a small but mighty team, but we're happy to work with you. For our upcoming programs, we have one tomorrow at our downtown campus, and that is with the author Peter Kagayama. He's going to talk about the importance of community and community college. We have a young elected officials, which we hope you'll see you there, and that is at our Gibbs campus, and that will be on Thursday, October 5th. And we are having what we call our competitive voices of our students on November 16th for our grand debate. 5 colleges within the Florida college system, and there are 28 of them, are going to compete. The students are going to fight for $1,200 for a top prize and a night at the Cambria Hotel. And then finally, we're going to support them also in Tallahassee as they do their legislative advocacy. And so thank you again for your time. The Institute wants to continue to be a space that's safe for voices, all voices to be heard. And thank you for our distinguished panel. And Josh, thank you again for your time today.